Well, hey everybody, John Ritland here with Rapid Fire episode 81. A few topics to discuss here today, including DX in the Hall of Fame, the Raw Lafayette crowd sucking ass, and Paige's comments about WWE, women's wrestling, and the fans not taking it seriously. I wonder which one I'm going to start off with. Do also want to emphasize once again, I am just a wrestling fan, having fun, talking about stuff I observe, and just generally giving my opinion. That's it. I'm not a reporter. I don't have inside sources. I'm not a journalist. I'm none of this stuff. I have no issue with anybody that is a reporter or a journalist and a legit one. I'm nothing against them. I'm just saying what I am, a reporter, no, just a wrestling fan. That's it. So, 30 plus years watching wrestling. Sometimes I see some shit that I don't quite agree with, and let's start off with, firstly, I do want to credit this whole thing about Paige's comments to Fightful.com. They actually do some good stuff and everything and have a really good staff of people that write pieces and everything. They actually do pretty goddamn well. So, big credit to them. Sean Ross Sapp in particular does some really good stuff. And so do so many YouTube content creators, especially for wrestling that follow me on here and on Twitter. Thank you guys very much. And you guys keep rocking as well. So, back to Paige's comments. A lot to unpack here. I'm going to read all of this stuff and then we're going to unpack it bit by bit. It was never WWE holding the women back. There's more. It was the fans not taking them seriously. They wanted to see more of the male characters many years ago. It was a male-dominated sport. When I first started, there were only 5 women there. It was a struggle, but WWE just believed in us. When I got into the ring, I wanted to prove to the fans that girls were capable of having good matches and sometimes even better. Obviously, even better than the guys. That was kind of my mission from the get-go, and now there's obviously a revolution. Okay, so let's take a lot of that bullshit right there. One, I do want to say right off the bat that I believe Paige was told to say especially that first line. And if Paige wasn't actually told pretty much the guidelines of what to say, I would be very, very shocked. Because Paige has been vocal in the past about not being taken all that seriously. And it's kind of fucking ridiculous. And it's really fucking ridiculous. Because Paige and others and everything, and that whole Give Divas a Chance thing that happened, I think, in 2013? 2013, I think is actually what it was. Yeah, I guess that never happened. I guess the fans didn't really have anything to do with that, even though it was stupid to call them divas because they were actually women. They weren't divas, even though the Total Divas show, which somehow is still called Total Divas, is still happening. I guess that didn't matter. I guess fans getting more into social media and everything, especially in the past number of years, and wanting women's wrestling to be taken more seriously, I guess that didn't matter. I guess what Impact did for a number of years didn't fucking matter. I guess Shimmer, Shine, Stardom, and so many others. And yeah, I know they're not in WWE, but so many of those women cutting their goddamn teeth. Oh, no, fans didn't want to take women's wrestling seriously. No, you know what it was? And look, I'm sure that Paige had the intention to say that it wasn't just on WWE. And I'm not saying that there aren't a lot of fans that still don't take women's wrestling seriously. And that is stupid. It's one thing if you have preferences and have favorites and least favorites and that kind of stuff from men to women. That's totally okay. What bothers me is those that say, oh, hey, women's wrestling, it isn't all that good and everything. That's kind of wrong because some of the women are actually going out there and legit killing themselves and legit beating their bodies up and having better matches than the men sometimes. I'm not trying to make this just a gender war or whatever because everybody, I believe, often goes out there and tries their best unless their name is Randy Orton and they just coast on their reputation and keep black and brown people down because they're a racist idiot. But back to Paige. So let's unpack that bit by bit. It was never about WWE holding the women back. Now this is going to be a bit of a rant right here, but do you know how many women's WrestleMania matches there were in the first 10? Actually, let's try that again. You know how many women were featured in matches in the first 15 WrestleManias? And I'm pretty certain Paige doesn't know this, because Paige doesn't seem to know a lot of shit. Mania 1, Leilani Kai and Wendy Richter. Okay, and that was the Rock and Wrestling Connection and that kind of stuff, and Cyndi Lauper, bringing quite a few eyeballs to the product, even though the women were working pretty hard. The women were still seen as a novelty act. Velvet McIntyre and Fabulous Moolah at Mania 2. After that, not a single women's match until WrestleMania 10. Alundra Blaze and Leilani Kai, who was still wrestling. I think Leilani Kai was about done after that. But after that, not one at 11, not one at 12, not one at 13. They did have Chyna ragdoll Terry Runnels, but they weren't in an actual match. I'm not discounting it. I'm just saying it wasn't an actual match. 14 was a mixed tag match. Sable actually got to wrestle. She got to be in the first woman's pseudo women's match like at a WrestleMania in about 4 years. It was Sable and Mark Merrow versus Luna and the artist formerly known as Goldust. And then Sable got to face Tori the next year. And then you know what the matches were at WrestleMania? The next one? I mean, Sable was an embarrassment enough as it is. And don't worry, I'm going to have every woman's WrestleMania match ranked from worst to best, that kind of stuff. But let's run through the history. The Cat versus Terry Runnels. And I got nothing against Terry Runnels, everything against the Cat, because the Cat was an abomination in the ring. But they hired so many models and people that I'm not saying had no business in the ring. Some actually turned out pretty good. Some that were hired strictly for their looks actually did want to improve and get better in the ring. Candice Michelle is one example that I can think of. Somebody that was hired from the Diva Search, featured in Playboy, this kind of stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with that, nothing, but she was hired strictly for her looks, did improve in 2007, did become women's champion, which is something that blew me away. I didn't think was going to happen, and credit to her for improving. But you had the Cat versus Terry Runnels in a cat fight. You had Chyna beat Ivory at Mania 17. You had two straight triple threat matches. Lita, Trish, and Jazz at Mania 18. Victoria, Jazz, and Trish at Mania 19. And then you had Victoria and Molly Holly. Molly Holly, who said she would have her head shaved just to get a women's title match on the card. Melina and Ashley Mazzaro getting their match cut down at Mania 23. Mickey and Trish having a match at Mania 22. One of the best matches on the goddamn card, easily. And it wasn't even featured near the main event. No, they had Candice Michelle versus Tori Wilson in a Playboy pillow fight. And nothing against either woman. It was a way to highlight how the women were used. So many women that could have done better for years and years and years were featured in throwaway matches because that's what WWE conditioned the fucking audience to want. And that's what it is. That's what really fucking bothers me here. You had some women like Trish and Lita and Jazz, even though Jazz kind of got injured a lot, she still could go when she wasn't injured. Victoria, Molly Holly, even Ivory, even though Ivory by I think 2002 was pretty much out of the ring. She was mainly a backstage interviewer. So many other women. Luna is somebody that should have been featured in a solo Mania match and probably would have been at Mania 15 if they hadn't been so fixated on Sable and probably wanted Luna to put her over. Dear God, I don't blame her. I don't blame her for being upset at all, because Luna bled buckets on continents or whatever, and actually her entire family, the Vachon family, did, and then they're fixated on Sable, that idiot that never belonged in the wrestling business. And look, I respect so many of the women that get into wrestling that actually want to wrestle or actually want to improve and that kind of stuff, and know their limits, because credit to Stacy Keibler, she was offered a chance to be women's champion and turned it down. Because she felt there were other deserving women. I don't remember if that was 01 or 02 or something like that. But she turned it down. There were other women that are deserving. Victoria is somebody that obviously gets forgotten about so much. After 2004, I don't recall much that Victoria really did, like where she wasn't marginalized and everything. Because they didn't really feature her all that well, and anytime she was featured, did she even become champion after 2005? Because I know Trish held it until Mickey beat her like WrestleMania 22, and I don't think Victoria held it after 2004. And that's really fucking sad. There are so many other women I'm sure that I'm forgetting, and I do apologize, but let's just even go into recent years. Michelle McCool, who I honestly was never a fan of, but actually did get better in the ring. Layla, Layla Cool was a pretty overact. I mean, yes, it was essentially a ripoff of the Beautiful People. It was, let's be honest. But so many other women. Beth Phoenix is somebody that gets forgotten about all the goddamn time. I mean, at least by a majority of people, because she retired so young. Because she had nothing else to accomplish. Yes, there are women like Kelly Kelly, who I never really cared for in the ring, but I will give her credit for trying to take bumps. I mean, she obviously wasn't really a trained athlete, but she tried. But Melina, Alicia Fox and Melina not having really that much of a match at SummerSlam 2010. That's not their fault. It just wasn't really given all that much of a build. Melina and Ashley getting their match cut down. Oh, we don't want, it outshining the men. Melina and Beth Phoenix, I believe, at the Royal Rumble 2009, they got upset. They got yelled at by management apparently for their match on that card, because it actually had some stiff shots and everything. They were told not to work like the men. They were told to work like women. not work like athletes when it's actually, that you're supposed to go out there and be athletes. Yes, you're supposed to be entertaining. WWE is more sports entertainment, obviously. Though the entertainment part is kind of a little bit, pushed off, and forced and everything. But Paige's comments bothered me because it was a slap in the face of so many goddamn women that cut their teeth, that left a division, even if it was in tatters because of that goddamn company. Paige is one of those that benefited from so many women having to be told, you're not good enough, you can't work like, you can't work like the men, you aren't worthy of this or whatever. We're going to cut your match from about 10 minutes to 3 minutes. We're going to do this, or ladies, we're going to throw all 10 of you into a tag match at WrestleMania 26, and Vicky's going to be the one to go over. Vicky, who apparently wants a wall built, and Vicky's a goddamn idiot for that. Though I do respect the hell out of Eddie, I will say that much. This was, and some of this is stuff I'm going to talk about in that women's, that women's WrestleMania match list. So don't worry, I will have some more rants about that. But my point is, and there's tons of stuff I'm forgetting, but look at what they were doing in 2012. They had Maria Menounos and I think it was Maria Menounos and Kelly versus Beth and, oh God, I don't even remember who it was. It was against Beth and somebody. It wasn't Melina because Melina was already gone. But the whole point is you have Maria Menounos, who actually was working a pretty good match. She actually did, and she had injured ribs and stuff like that. She was a celebrity. But because she respected wrestling, I respected that she was in there and working really hard. Go to the previous WrestleMania where they had Trish's comeback match in a throwaway mixed tag match. No wonder Trish didn't want to come back to the ring for a goddamn while. But then let's take a look at what NXT was doing. When NXT established their women's division, they had Paige and Emma were tearing it up and everything. They had a few other women. They were establishing Sasha and Bayley and Charlotte. And the women were cutting some great goddamn promos and some really, having some really blow-away matches on stuff, on the big shows in 2014 and 2015, stuff like that. Meanwhile, let's take a look at what 2015 was doing. 2013 to 2015. They brought back the Bellas. And look, I'm sorry, this is going to sound like I'm pissing on them, but I never cared for the Bellas. I never respected them in the ring. I never did. I never wanted them to get injured. Bree certainly didn't really have any business in there. She was not nearly athletic enough. Nikki, sorry, but I just never cared for Nikki, and we pretty much know why Nikki was champion for as long as she was. We know why. It's because the company was pissed off at AJ. Which is a real shame. There was another reason, but you all know that reason. I'm not saying that Nikki didn't improve, and I'm not saying that Nikki didn't get better, but when you're at the bottom, all you can do is go up, if you actually want to try. But they're focusing on Nikki, who, I'm sorry, does not deserve the credit. The Bellas do not deserve the credit for the whole Give Divas a Chance thing, because it was AJ Lee that was doing that stuff. Now, there was also Caitlyn. Eve Torres is somebody that gets forgotten about. I'm name-dropping a whole bunch of women. The point is, so many of these women cut their teeth and were working hard and getting better in the ring and trying with every scrap and crap storyline that they got. Every good scrap that they got, they tried to stretch out. Make it into their best and everything. Every crap storyline they tried to make great. There are some years where women's matches were not even featured that well. Like, I think at Mania 29, I think they cut that giant mixed tag match that had the Funkadactyls and the Bellas in it. And it was tons of Funk, Cody, and Sandow, I think, that were teaming with the Bellas. The whole point is, yes, there are times where women's matches get cut. And it actually has taken until pretty much Mania 32 for women's matches to start being taken seriously again. Because after Mania 22, they were treated like throwaways. After that Mickey Trish match. Which Vince probably got pissed about, what Mickey did and everything, even though it got good heat and got a good reaction. It was dumb. Paige's comments seem very corporate to me. Paige did essentially slap a bunch of women in the face. Whether she meant to or not, she slapped a bunch of women in the face. And quite frankly, Paige needs to thank her lucky stars that the company the company decided to keep her. And yes, a lot of this could be to do, hey, we spent a lot of money, promoting this movie and everything about your life. You're going to go out and say this shit. So I'm sure that's what it was. So maybe you guys think I'm being a little light on Paige. I'm not being light on Paige. I was fucking livid when I saw that shit. But I also recognize it was a corporate response. Paige did slap a ton of women in the face. And it is fucking bullshit that she slapped a ton of women in the face. And I fucking hate that she did. Whether she meant to or not, she fucking did it. And it's fucking rotten. So, but also, yes, are some of the fans to blame? Yes, there are some fans. That would be interesting to see them in the crowd. But some fans that are to blame for the fact that women, that women aren't taken as seriously. That some people make comments and everything. And yeah, I joke on Twitter. I joke about the men and the women. I don't discriminate. I'm an equal opportunity offender, and stand by that. But there are plenty of women. There are plenty of women that have worked really, really hard. Natalia is one that I forgot. Look at all the shit she's gotten and has stuck around that goddamn company for 10 plus years. I think it's about 11 years right now. Tamina. I don't know why Tamina's still employed besides who her daddy is, because I'm sorry, she's always injured and everything. And Alexa and others and everything, okay, they are good for what they are. Alexa's better on promos and everything. Mickie James came back, and this was after the company had treated her badly with the whole Piggy James thing. Remember that? Oh no, but it's the women, or it's the fans not taking it seriously, Paige, when that's getting thrown in their face. Come on. That's pretty fucking rotten. So let's be perfectly honest though about Paige's comments. They were stupid. They were corporate, but they were stupid. Are some of the fans to blame? Absolutely, some of the fans are to blame, because there are fans that still don't take it seriously. But a lot of it is on WWE. And if she doesn't think that a lot of it's on WWE, then she's misguided. She is misguided, to say the least, and she needs to stop slapping the women in the face. They, quite frankly, were better workers than she was. Now, Paige was a hell of a worker, and Paige could actually cut a pretty decent promo, and the anti-diva thing worked really well. And it is unfortunate she had to retire. I'm glad she was able to retire without being paralyzed. But Paige was one of those that, sorry to say, in WWE, after 2015, what the fuck did she really do? Now, she did have that injury, and thankfully has recovered, at least enough to where she can have a, full, healthy life. But I hate this fact that Paige says this, and it just smacks of, corporate BS and everything, and I really hope she doesn't believe this. I really hope she doesn't. I really hope that this is a corporate-fed response and just related to her movie. Because if she actually believes this stuff, I'm sorry, that is misguided and that is dumb. That is really goddamn dumb. But, yeah, so the bottom line is sure, okay, some fans are to blame. I won't deny that. I won't deny that there are some fans, myself included, that sometimes won't give some matches a chance. I try to give every match a chance. But there are some people I like and some people I don't like. And there are some misguided points here, okay, the fans won't take them seriously. Well, when you keep getting fed broad and panty matches and all this kind of stuff, and the mud wrestling and all that bullshit, and the women are treated like jokes, and these titles don't matter, and all this stuff, or why pay attention to this one, it's only going to last a few minutes. People go to the toilet. When people are told not to care about something, yeah, you're going to kind of condition the audience to not care. If WWE hadn't gone and hired a whole bunch of bikini models and a whole bunch of women, and some of them actually tried. Some of them were good, to be valets on camera. Some of them were never going to be athletes. Maria Kanellis is one that actually got better in the ring. I'm not saying she's great, but she got better in the ring. Victoria's one I always go back to. I mean, I know I mentioned her earlier, but Victoria's one where I really wish she was in the Rumble and she could be in the Hall of Fame. But, yeah, so I spent enough time on that. So, yeah, Paige's comments are pretty fucking stupid. Corporate, but stupid. Leave in the comments what you think of what Paige had to say. As I'm sure there's more, and I just don't quite get the praise for the Bellas. I just don't. I just never did. The Bellas were never any good. They weren't. And you can call me biased if you want. Now, the people that really aren't very good are people like Nia and Tamina. But I will say this. Women's wrestling should be taken more seriously, and I'm trying to do that with even the matches featuring talents I don't like. I'm trying to get better, but there we go. Let's just move on to DX's induction into the Hall of Fame. I want to say this, and this is where I'm going to probably get some hate. I found DX overrated as fuck. Completely overrated. Now, I get why they were popular. It was during the car crash TV thing. It was during the whole thing with, the Attitude Era, and they needed a fresh... They needed, to freshen things up and everything and go edgy and all that. And DX was what they were. You had Triple H, you had Shawn Michaels, you had Rick Rude, you had Chyna. And actually, it might have been Triple H, Shawn, and Chyna, and then Rick Rude. Actually, yeah, Rick Rude came along later because he was still working with ECW and stuff like that. And then went to WCW in late 97 after the screw job. But anyway, then Road Dogg and Billy Gunn got added, and then X-Pac got added. From there, I mean, I guess Mankind and stuff like that was an honorary mention. But okay, the whole point is, Triple H, Shawn, Chyna, Rude, DX, X-Pac. Now, Rick Rude will probably get mentioned. Rick Rude, I don't think is going to get much of I don't think he's going to get a Hall of Fame ring out of this, but he will get mentioned. But if we take Rick Rude out of it, that's still 6 people. There are people crying that Chyna did not deserve to be, or Chyna deserves her own spot in the Hall of Fame. Now, I will say that Chyna, compared to a lot of women that they put in the Hall of Fame for less, did do a whole lot more. I have never personally been a fan of Chyna. I never have. It was terrible when she died. It was terrible that the company did not bring her back when she seemed to be cleaning her life up. And it is terrible she passed away when she did. I'm not discounting that. I'm not saying the company didn't do her dirty also. I'm not saying the company didn't blacklist her. Sure, she had her issues and stuff like that, and quite a bit of that was on her, as they are on anybody. Anybody that gets into those issues. I mean, I don't care if it's a man or a woman. Company should have brought her back and inducted her in the Hall of Fame before she passed away. It would have been nice to be at Mania 32. Because then, even though she would have died a few weeks later, or died a few weeks later, she at least would have been in the Hall of Fame. DX in the Hall of Fame doesn't shock me, but I just never cared for DX. I found some of their antics to be funny, but I found a lot of it to be stupid. I mean, I guess that was the point. The NWO was better. Far better. I would say NWO 2000 or NWO 2002 was better than DX, or at least, the return or the 2006 version of DX, but that's my opinion. I would not have put Chyna in a solo induction, but that's because of my own personal bias. I never thought that Chyna, with her own merits, though I will say this, being the first ever woman Intercontinental Champion and being in the Royal Rumble, the first woman in the Royal Rumble, right there actually does qualify, even though the WWE Hall of Fame is bullshit, so they've inducted people for less. So that right there, credentials alone, she should be in. I never really found Chyna's matches that interesting. I never really found Chyna to be my favorite. I can get why people find her to be an inspiration, and I will say this, she broke the mold for many women that look different. Striking looks, strong looks and everything to get into wrestling. So with that, yes, I can totally understand why some people would want Chyna to be a solo induction. And you guys can be mad if you want. You guys can be mad at me because I never really cared for Chyna. At least she's going in. Now, yes, okay, she can't be there. That is unfortunate. That is terribly unfortunate. It's terrible Vader can't be in the Hall of Fame. There are other women that should have been inducted as well. And maybe other women will be. Molly Holly, anybody? Ivory was already inducted. Ivory's apparently an immortal because she's almost 16. She looks fantastic. I was never a fan of DX, but them being in the Hall of Fame, okay, if this is what gets Chyna in there, and they mention Chyna, if every single person puts over Chyna, except maybe Triple H doing that because Triple H was on Austin's podcast. Well, the reason Chyna's not going to be in the Hall of Fame is because kids could go to Google and everything and find the movies about her and find the stuff about her. Not like going to Google and finding Triple H doing the whole, and this is where I'm going to get a little bit angry about it, doing the whole, thing with Booker T, people like you can't be champion, and people like you are here to make people like me laugh. Oh, it was a WCW guy, yeah, okay. Or the whole Katie Vick corpse fucking thing, or the crotch chops, or all that stuff. The one person that I will say about this, though, Road Dogg, I don't know why it matters to Road Dogg, because wins and losses and Hall of Fame inductions don't matter. And yeah, that's my one shot at Road Dogg. So, yes, I can understand people's frustrations. At least Chyna's going in. If you guys don't want to be happy about it, don't be happy about it. If you guys want to vilify me for what I said, that's fine. I'm not against Chyna being in. I just knew it wasn't going to be as a solo induction. Whether I wanted it, whether anybody else wanted it, it was not going to be it. And then we go to the Lafayette crowd, the Raw Lafayette crowd. Lafayette should be on a blacklist of towns they never run again. It's an old Mid-South territory, if I recall correctly. And they actually can be pretty wild and everything. Now, look, the WWE product the TV product has generally been kind of shit for the past few months. Some flashes of good stuff and everything, but often it's been eh. Um, and introducing these NXT call-ups, I mean, even though I don't think they're going to be full-time call-ups yet, I think after Mania they will be. It was an odd move to debut them in Lafayette. Should have been Chicago, Toronto, that kind of stuff, whatever. They would have given them more of a reaction. There is a disconnect between NXT and the main roster. Some people don't watch NXT. I'm not saying that NXT is the end-all be-all or whatever, but at least the product feature tends to entertain me more. It's more wrestling-based. Yeah, sometimes it's entertainment-based and all that, but still, features some good talents. I will not say there are people that say, oh, Ricochet, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, and Aleister Black are, homegrown talents. Bullshit. They had big names on the indies before they got to WWE. Now, am I saying they aren't big stars in WWE? Oh, they are. They're not homegrown stars. So let's stop with that. The Raw Lafayette crowd does never run a TV taping in Lafayette again. Never. Give them house shows. Look, I feel bad for the fans that actually were cheering pretty goddamn loud, because I could hear some. But apparently the building wasn't very full. It was only half full, maybe 60% full. WWE is going to have to start running in smaller venues because they aren't going to be able to draw these big crowds. They're spending all this money, and they're not going to be able to draw big crowds because they've given the fans shit for a long enough time. So some fans are going to other places and everything. Now, I'm still going to watch WWE because, A, I enjoy supporting the talents that I like, and I like reviewing it. And you guys like when I review it. So that's why I'm going to keep doing it. But anyway, that's all I have to say about that. So yeah, the Paige comments kind of took up most of this video, but let me know what you guys think of all this stuff. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I will see you soon.